Hi, I'm Shan Wu with the Undercolor of Law take on one of the hopefully successful legal pushbacks against the Trump executive orders. So first of all, happy Lunar New Year. It's Year of the Snake, and before I hear any jokes about it being the Year of the Snake, let's remember that one of the symbols of the snake is a renewal, shedding of the old, growing something new. So hopefully this lawsuit might be an example of that. So we'll put up the headline for you about the lawsuit. This just dropped. And it is a lawsuit suing against the executive orders banning DEI. And obviously, this is a long-standing trope that Trump likes to go to. And even ridiculously enough, I mean, it'd be ridiculous if it wasn't so tragic, he even tries to use it about the recent plane crash collision in D.C. So just take a quick listen here.
My administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. You have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel.
So he blames DEI for the air crash in D.C. with zero evidence about anything. Anybody who knows anything would know that there are no details yet. Wait for the investigation. But he wants to jump out there, and he's talking about the appearance of people. Really, does this man ever look in the mirror? I mean, this is really bizarre looking at that image of him there, but I digress. Then he really gets to it. He wants to jump right into the FAA's diversity initiatives, their hiring, etc. Again, he doesn't have any idea about what's going on in the collision when he's talking about this, but he has an answer, so take a listen to this.
The FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
So that's what makes this lawsuit so important and emblematic at what can be done and what they're trying to do. It really hits right at the heart of Trump and Musk's efforts to take over the government using different facades for that. Indeed, anti-DEI is just one of the sort of techniques, one of the facades. So the plaintiffs here, a very broad-based coalition, and what I like about that is that really shows us all the ways in which diversity, equity, and inclusion affects all of our society. And it illustrates the way in which these executive orders, which are ridiculously illegal and overbroad, and we'll explain that in a second, impact such a broad spectrum. I mean, really impacts all of us. So here are the plaintiffs. There's the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, the American Association of University Professors. Those two make perfect sense because you can easily imagine how higher ed's being affected by these orders. And the next group is the Restaurant Opportunity Centers United, acronym is ROW, and then the City of Baltimore. So that's an interesting group because at first glance one thinks, oh, you know, what's with the restaurant workers in the City of Baltimore? And they are seeking declaratory and injunctive relief. And before we talk more about the plaintiffs, let's just quickly review what that means. Declaratory relief is what it sounds like, which is it's asking the court to declare something. In this case, they'd be asking the court to declare that there's something wrong with these DEI orders. And then the second part is injunctive relief, which would be seeking to do something to stop it, like temporarily stop this and then later on permanently stop it. So they're asking a court to declare that's wrong and to stop it in the meantime. And you have to show that you have a likelihood of success for that injunction, and you also need to show irreparable harm. That's what the complaint's asking for. So like we're discussing, this is a group of plaintiffs which don't immediately fall together. With higher education, you can certainly understand what's going on there. They will get a lot of grants, and those grants could be at issue. And interestingly enough, the United Restaurant Opportunity Centers, ROC, I think it's called it ROW before it's ROC, ROC, they give, their purpose is to take the restaurant industry, which historically is rather white male dominated, and give people of color the tools and the opportunity to advance and the training. And what they do with this is they're promoting gender, racial equity, and they get grants for it, so their grants, could also be in jeopardy. And then you have the city of Baltimore, 30th largest city in the country, and they, of course, as a city, get a ton of grants from the federal government for all sorts of things: low-income housing, support for the elderly, you name it, combating sexual violence, all federal grant money, all of which can be attacked by trying to use this facade, this masquerade of, oh, we're trying to root out DEI. So when you put these defendants together, you really show how broad the regime's action affect people in all these different ways. Now, what really shows what a broad effect this has and how broad is the group within the government implementing this plan is in the list of defendants. I mean, it's huge. It starts with the president, then the HHS secretary. HHS, of course, gives grants to at least 2 or more of these plaintiffs. The Labor Department, grant funding, Interior Department, Commerce Department, Agriculture, Energy, Transportation, DOJ, National Science Foundation, and then OMB, who's basically doing these executive orders. These are all the departments being sued, as well as the heads of the department, mostly acting ones right now, in their official capacities. This lawsuit really zeroes in on just how poorly the executive orders were drafted. Whether it's because they have lousy lawyering, very careless people, and or they don't really care, some combination thereof. Let's take a quick look at just how bad it is. So Executive Order J20, it eliminates DEI, EIA, environmental justice, but you know something? It doesn't actually define what those programs are. It literally just throws out the phrase DEI with no definition. It's as though they think they're just talking to their own MAGA people at a Trump rally, and they all know DEI is code word for something. Let's hate people of color, people who don't look like us. That's what the code word is. So they figure they just throw it in the executive order. Don't need to define it. The next one is Executive Order J21. And that one is really going at the private sector. It's telling the government agencies they need to police their private sector counterparts if they're interacting with them with a contract. And they ask the private sector entities to make a certification that they're not doing anything DEI oriented. And here's the hammer part. If those certifications turn out to be wrong, or the Trump regime just decides they're wrong, they threaten to bring FCA actions. Those are False Claims Act actions, also known as QTAM, for perpetrating a fraud upon the government and try and reclaim the costs of those contracts. So that's the kind of enforcement mechanism they want to use there in targeting the private sector for that. So the Restaurant Opportunity Centers, ROC, they have this great program that provides development and addresses this racial inequality in the restaurant industry, and has a really cute name. It's the Culinary Hospitality Opportunities for Workers, CHOW. And it builds career pathways for people of color, and it also addresses sexual harassment in the workplace. That's something which clearly would run afoul of their non-definition of DEI, and they would try to attack that. And it's a private entity, and they would go after that. So let's examine what the claims are in the complaint. Okay, first claim is it violates the spending clause. Basically, it's a constitutional argument, Congress versus the executive on spending. Congress should win. They call this executive order an ultra-virus action, and we'll put up the definition of that. It basically means it's illegal, it's outside the bounds of the proper power. Next, you have a Fifth Amendment argument. This is my favorite. It's void for vagueness. That was the favorite insult we used to use in law school. And it's void for vagueness because the standard is you providing a person of ordinary intelligence fair notice of what's prohibited, and it doesn't. It's so standardless, as the complaint says, that it authorizes or encourages seriously discriminatory enforcement, quoting from a former case. And that's exactly what they do, right? They don't even bother to define anything here. Claims 3 and 4, their First Amendment claims, obviously talking about we're banning DEI is targeting particular speech viewpoints. Watch for that to come up over and over again on the DEI issues, that it's a violation of the First Amendment. And lastly, separation of powers, which is the executive cannot put conditions on how Congress has already appropriated to spend. You can't just come in and do that after the fact. So there's some precedent for this. I mean, obviously, the Trump forces have been interested in hurting the DEI efforts for a long time. And in 2020, Trump won. They tried a version of an order like this, and a federal judge issued a nationwide injunction. That's going to be our friend, nationwide injunctions. And it would have been appealed. Maybe there'd be a permanent injunction, but it lasted long enough that when Biden came into office, he revoked it. So that's it for now. We'll keep an eye on this lawsuit and many of the other ones that are beginning to surface. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for the comments and replies. They're really great to read, and happy Lunar New Year.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.